If you're a connoisseur of dread, a true aficionado of the horrifying, then lean in close, because friends, the future of fear is not just bright, it is blindingly terrifying. We're living in an absolute golden age for horror gaming, and the nightmare is only going to get deeper. Never before have we seen such a perfect storm of innovation, ambition and pure unadulterated terror, from indie darlings pushing boundaries with psychological dread and found footage nightmares to AAA powerhouses harnessing the full might of next-gen engines for visceral, heart-stopping scares. Body horror, cosmic horror, survival, psychological thrillers, creature features, the landscape is richer, deeper and infinitely more dangerous than ever before. Developers are experimenting with new mechanics, new narratives, and new ways to crawl under your skin and stay there. So, if you're ready to embrace the darkness, to confront the unknown, and to plan your next sleepless night for the next several years, then you're in the right place. Now, let's step into the shadow. Here are the 20 games that will define horror in 2025 and beyond. Dying Light: The Beast is the up-and-coming standalone entry in Techland's acclaimed zombie survival horror franchise. You play as Kyle Crane, the protagonist from the original Dying Light, who returns after 13 years of captivity and brutal experimentation. Now part human, part zombie, Crane must navigate the haunting wilderness of Castor Woods, seeking revenge against his tormentor, the Baron. With its dynamic day-night cycle, supercharger volatiles and a greater focus on gunplay than in past installments, the beast is shaping up to be pure Dying Light zombie killing mania, wrapped up in a tight 18-hour plus story. Better yet, if you're the owner of the Dying Light 2 Deluxe Edition, you'll get the beast absolutely free. Chronos: The New Dawn is an upcoming third-person survival horror game from Bloober Team, known for Layers of Fear and most recently the Silent Hill 2 remake. You step into the role of the Traveller, an operative of the mysterious collective, navigating two timelines. A devastated future after the change, a cataclysm that transformed humans into grotesque creatures called orphans. Or the 1980s Poland, the moment in history when the change began, where you must rescue key individuals to alter the course of events. Your mission is to salvage the past, to save the future, all while surviving relentless horrors. Gameplay highlights include a corpse-burning mechanic, similar to the one seen in the Resident Evil remake, which introduced us to the fearsome Crimson Head zombies. Basically, if you fail to burn bodies, enemies can merge, mutating into more dangerous forms. Combat is a mix with both melee weapons and firearms, however, ammo is scarce, forcing strategic play. There are temporal shifts, which see you using time anomalies to solve puzzles, open new paths, and manipulate the environment. The primary gameplay focus in Chronos is survival, where you'll need to scavenge for resources, manage inventory carefully, and adapt to evolving threats. This spiritual successor to Dead Space is shaping up to be a tense blend of body horror, time travel, and resource-driven survival. Silent Hill F is the next mainline entry in Konami's legendary survival horror series, and the first to be set in Japan with music by series veteran Akira Yamaoka. Taking place in the 1960s in the fictional rural town of Ebisugaoka, which is inspired by real-life Kaneyama in the Gifu prefecture, you play as protagonist Hinako Shimizu, a high school student trapped when a sudden fog engulfs her hometown. Red spider lilies, beautiful yet deadly, spread through the streets, warping reality and spawning grotesque monsters. The developers have promised classic Silent Hill DNA, such as puzzle solving, exploration, and that psychological horror will remain central. The combat will be more action-oriented than past entries, but tuned to appeal to both classic fans and newcomers. Silent Hill F will lean heavily into Japanese horror traditions, spiritual dread, social unease and the uncanny, while keeping the series' trademark oppressive mood. Expect striking camera work and symbolic imagery, with the red flowers acting as both a visual motif and a gameplay element. Little Nightmares 3 is the next chapter in Bandai Namco's eerie puzzle platform horror series, and for the first time, it is being developed by Supermassive Games. Co-op will feature for the first time, play online with a friend or solo with an AI companion. 2 new characters, Lo, armed with a bow, and Alone, wielding a wrench, are trapped in the Spiral, a cluster of disturbing dreamlike locations within the Nowhere. They must work together to escape a looming mysterious threat. Expect the signature Little Nightmares tone, surreal, oppressive, and unsettling, blending childhood fears with grotesque, oversized worlds, as well as those environmental puzzles that see you having to sneak through hidden passages, boost each other over obstacles, and use your tools creatively to progress. You'll encounter plenty of hostile inhabitants. Each area is home to bizarre, dangerous beings that will hunt you down. I can't wait to see how the Dark Pictures Anthology studio brings its unique brand of chills and thrills to the series. Directive 8020 is an upcoming survival horror video game developed by Supermassive Games, known for their cinematic and choice-driven storytelling. It is the first installment of Season 2 in the Dark Pictures Anthology and the 5th game overall in the series. Expect sci-fi survival horror with interactive drama elements. The game is based around a colony ship called Cassiopeia, which crash lands on Tai Ceti F, a planet 12 light-years from Earth. In the world of Directive 8020, Earth is dying, and humanity's last hope lies in colonizing Tau Ceti F. But the crew soon discovers they're not alone. An alien organism capable of mimicking its prey begins hunting them. The crew must survive and make impossible choices, including risking Earth's future to save themselves. If you're into tense decision-making, eerie sci-fi settings, and branching narratives, this one's shaping up to be a thrilling ride. Halloween the Game is an upcoming, asymmetrical stealth horror video game based on John Carpenter's iconic 1978 slasher film Halloween. Developed by iPhonic, the studio behind Friday the 13th the game and Predator Hunting Grounds, it is set to release sometime in 2026. You get to step into the eerie town of Haddonfield on Halloween night, 1978, the night he came home. Players either become the infamous killer Michael Myers or play as civilians trying to survive his relentless pursuit. Interestingly, the game will feature a single-player story mode where you can experience the horror from Michael Myers' perspective, staying true to the original film's events. Of course, there'll be the classic 1 vs 4 multiplayer mode, in which one player controls Michael Myers, while 4 others play as townsfolk trying to warn residents, call for help and escape. The game is described as a stealth-based horror with dynamic environments, NPCs, and strategic survival mechanics. As Michael Myers, you must use shadows, stealth, and a terrifying arsenal of abilities to stalk and eliminate enemies. Expect a faithful recreation of Haddonfield with haunting music and visuals inspired by the original film. Better yet, legendary director John Carpenter is directly involved in the project, ensuring authenticity. Talking of John Carpenter, Toxic Commando promises to be a high-octane, co-op first-person shooter developed by Saber Interactive and inspired by the legendary horror filmmaker John Carpenter. It is a love letter to 1980s horror and action cinema, packed with undead mayhem, over-the-top weaponry, and a healthy dose of campy humor. The game is set in a near-future Earth, plagued by a failed energy experiment that unleashes the Sludge God, turning the world into a toxic wasteland filled with grotesque monsters. You play as part of the Toxic Commando squad, mercenaries hired to clean up the mess. Armed with guns, grenades, and even off-road vehicles, you'll blast through hordes of infected creatures in open-world missions. Toxic Commando allows you to team up with friends to complete objectives and survive massive waves of enemies. You can explore freely, take on side missions, and scavenge for loot before triggering major firefights. Drive armed Humvees, ambulances, and other vehicles to mow down zombies or support your squad. Choose from roles like Operator, Medic, Defender, and Strike, each with unique abilities. Built on Saber's tech from World War Z, which allows for hundreds of enemies on screen at once. Think Left 4 Dead meets Mad Max with Carpenter's signature horror flair. Tentacle monstrosities, glowing-eyed ghouls, and explosive B-movie bravado. OD is an upcoming video game from Kojima Productions, helmed by the legendary game designer Hideo Kojima in collaboration with Xbox Game Studios. It was officially revealed at the Game Awards 2023. Kojima describes OD, or Overdose, as a game that explores the concept of fear, not just jump scares, but the psychological and emotional dimensions of terror. The game will utilize cloud-powered technology, built using Microsoft's cloud infrastructure, suggesting innovative mechanics that go beyond traditional console capabilities. Kojima has stated that OD is not just a game, it is also a new form of media. He's aiming to blur the lines between gaming, film and interactive storytelling. Think of it as part horror experience, part cinematic experiment. Tormented Souls 2 is the chilling sequel to the cult classic survival horror game Tormented Souls from 2021. Developed by Dual Effect and published by P-Cube, it continues the story of Caroline Walker, plunging players into another twisted nightmare filled with grotesque creatures, eerie environments, and mind-bending puzzles. After surviving the horrors of Wild Badger Hospital, Caroline hopes for a peaceful life with her sister Anna, but tranquility is short-lived. Anna begins suffering from a mysterious illness, coughing up black blood and creating disturbing drawings that manifest into reality. Caroline's search for answers leads to the remote town of Villa Hesse in southern Chile, where a sinister clinic hides a dark secret and a cult with terrifying intentions. Inspired by Resident Evil, Silent Hill and Alone in the Dark with fixed camera angles and atmospheric tension, you can switch between alternate realities, reshape the past to alter the present, and uncover hidden paths. Use tools like nail guns and chainsaws to fight off monstrous enemies. Traverse haunting locations, including a shadowy convent, abandoned school, and derelict shopping mall. Solve intricate puzzles that blend logic, lore, and environmental storytelling. Alien Isolation 2 is the newly confirmed sequel to the critically acclaimed survival horror game Alien Isolation from 2014, which was developed by Creative Assembly. Announced on the original game's 10-year anniversary, the sequel is currently in early development, and while the details are scarce, fans are buzzing with anticipation. While plot details haven't been shared, the ending of the first game left room for a continuation. Amanda Ripley, daughter of Ellen Ripley, was last seen drifting in space after surviving the Sevastopol station. Fans speculate the sequel may pick up with Amanda being rescued or encountering new threats in deep space. Reanimal is an upcoming survival horror and cinematic platformer developed by Tarsier Studios, the creators of Little Nightmares. Reanimal is shaping up to be a spiritual successor to Little Nightmares, but with a darker, more terrifying twist. In the game, you play as a brother and sister trapped in a hellish version of their home, trying to rescue 3 missing friends. The world is corrupted by mutated animals and surreal horrors tied to the siblings' traumatic past. The game unfolds across eerie islands, abandoned schools, and defiled convents, blending environmental storytelling with psychological dread. Tarsier Studios have aimed to maximize claustrophobia and tension, especially in co-op mode, where fear is shared. Reanimal is inspired by It Takes Two, Silent Hill 2, and The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, a mix of adventure and dread. The monster designs are deeply symbolic, reflecting the protagonist's emotional scars and memories. If you love the eerie charm of Little Nightmares, but crave something more psychologically intense and narratively rich, Reanimal might be your next obsession. Silent Hill Remake is officially in development, bringing the legendary 1999 survival horror game into the modern era. It is being crafted by Bloober Team, the same studio behind the critically acclaimed Silent Hill 2 remake. The original Silent Hill follows Harry Mason, a father searching for his missing adopted daughter Cheryl in the eerie, fog-drenched town of Silent Hill. As he delves deeper, he uncovers disturbing truths about the town's cult, his daughter's origins, and a supernatural force known as Alessa. The original game pioneered psychological horror in gaming, using fog and darkness to mask technical limitations and heighten suspense, symbolic monsters and surreal environments, and multiple endings based on player choices. If the Silent Hill 2 remake is anything to go by, then this remake of the original Silent Hill is shaping up to be something truly special. Clive Barker's Hellraiser Revival is a bold, grotesque, and deeply immersive survival horror game, developed by Saber Interactive and Boss Team Games, with Clive Barker himself directly involved in shaping its story, visuals and lore. It is the first fully fledged video game adaptation of Barker's Hellraiser universe. In this single-player survival horror, you play as Aiden, a man who accidentally unleashes the Cenobites, sadomasochistic demons, after tampering with a mysterious puzzle box called the Genesis Configuration. His girlfriend Sunny is torn apart in the opening scene, and Aiden must navigate a cult's hellish labyrinth to survive and possibly save her. Inspired by the Hellbound Heart and the first two Hellraiser films, the game will explore the twisted line between pleasure and pain, desire and torment. It will feature iconic Cenobites like Pinhead and Chatterer. Barker's influence ensures the game stays true to the franchise's mythos, while introducing new characters and settings. This game isn't just horror, it is a descent into a beautifully depraved nightmare. Resident Evil Requiem is the 9th mainline entry in Capcom's legendary survival horror franchise. Directed by Koshi Nakanishi, who also helmed Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, Requiem is being hailed as the most extreme Resident Evil game yet, not just in scares, but in emotional and psychological intensity. Set 30 years after the destruction of Raccoon City, the game follows Grace Ashcroft, an introverted FBI analyst investigating a string of mysterious deaths at the Wrenwood Hotel, the same place her mother died 8 years prior. Grace is not your typical action hero. She's easily frightened, analytical and vulnerable, making her a relatable lens for players. The game explores themes of trauma, memory and fear, with Grace slowly evolving from terrified survivor to empowered investigator. Notable game features include the ability to switch between first-person and third-person views anytime, a segment involving a stalker enemy known as Big Mama, a grotesque, towering female monster that relentlessly hunts you. Stealth mechanics and classic Resident Evil-style puzzles and environmental challenges are included. The game uses Capcom's RE engine, delivering hyper-realistic visuals including lifelike facial expressions and even sweat droplets. Rumours continue to swirl about the return of Leon S. Kennedy, though Capcom has neither confirmed nor denied his involvement. Dark Fracture is a first-person psychological horror game developed by Twisted 2 Studio. It plunges players into a surreal, ever-shifting world where the boundaries between reality and nightmare blur. Think Silent Hill meets Lovecraftian dread with a heavy dose of mental unravelling. You play as Edward, a solitary man working the midnight shift at a body farm, a real-life forensic research facility where human decomposition is studied. Haunted by a tragic past and barely holding himself together with medication, Edward begins to experience increasingly disturbing phenomena that challenges his grip on reality. The game explores themes of trauma, isolation and madness. Edward's descent is shaped by your choices, leading to multiple possible outcomes. Environments will shift and distort based on Edward's mental state. Edward's mental health affects gameplay, visuals and interactions. Nowhere is an upcoming Nordic-inspired narrative mystery horror game developed by Midnight Forge Ltd, blending psychological horror, detective gameplay, and Norse mythology into a chilling immersive experience. You play as a detective investigating the disappearance of a group of tourists in the forest of Norway. But as you dig deeper, you uncover ancient secrets tied to Norse gods, Ragnarok, and the fading echoes of Viking-era worship. The game explores what happened to the gods after their worship ended. The forest itself becomes a character, twisting and corrupting as supernatural forces awaken. A mysterious horn signals the shift from reality to nightmare. Search for clues, inspect environments, and make your own deductions. Hide, run, or fight against stalking monsters lurking in the shadows. The game features an open-world design, which lets you explore eerie Scandinavian locations at your own pace. If you're into games like Amnesia, Soma and Mundawn, Nowhere might be right up your haunted alley. Ritual Tides is an upcoming first-person Lovecraftian horror game developed by Verpaint Studios, a new indie team made up of industry veterans from Rockstar, Telltale Games and Ubisoft. The game plunges players into a surreal nightmare set on a fictional British island steeped in ancient rituals, cosmic dread and psychological torment. You awaken washed ashore on a desolate island with no memory and only one goal: uncover that island's horrific secrets. As you explore, you'll encounter grotesque enemies, cryptic symbols and a creeping sense that reality itself is unravelling. The mystical island is tied to ancient rites, forgotten gods and eldritch forces that stir beneath the waves. The narrative is heavily inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's cosmic horror, focusing on insignificance, madness, and the unknown. Utilizing Unreal Engine 5, the game promises to feature stunning visuals with dynamic lighting and environmental detail. Gameplay that focuses on your ability to hide, run, or fight. Combat is minimal and tension is high. There'll be plenty of diverse and grotesque creatures designed to unsettle and surprise. The island changes as you uncover its secrets, blending reality and hallucinations. The game will place a focus on existential dread rather than just monsters with epic atmospheric immersion. Every sound, shadow, and whisper is designed to build unease. If you're into games like Amnesia, Call of Cthulhu, or Soma, Ritual Tides promises to be a haunting new entry in the genre. Ill is an upcoming first-person survival horror game developed by Team Clout, a studio made up of horror veterans from film and gaming industries. Ill is already generating buzz for its visceral body horror, cinematic storytelling, and hyper-realistic physics-driven gameplay. Set in a decrepit research fort, Ill follows a protagonist caught in a nightmare of grotesque experiments, mutating creatures, and a mysterious evil force. The facility has birthed horrific beings known as aberrations, fused human-like monstrosities that stalk the industrial corridors. Gameplay highlights include realistic dismemberment in which you can tear apart enemies with grotesque detail. Bones, organs, limbs all react dynamically. Use the environment to your advantage. Collapse rooms, trigger traps, and manipulate debris. Supposedly, enemies will react to your actions with disturbing human-like reflexes. Team Clout's developers have worked on horror films and series like Longlegs, Until Dawn, VHS Beyond, and It, Welcome to Derry. That experience bleeds into Ill's presentation. The Occultist is an upcoming first-person psychological survival horror game developed by Dalor and published by Daedalic Entertainment. It centers on Alan Rebels, a paranormal investigator who travels to the fog-shrouded island of Godstone to uncover the fate of his missing father and the dark history of a cult that once tormented the land. The setting is Godstone, an isolated and ominous island, deserted since the 1950s after a macabre cult conducted grisly rituals and experiments that damned its inhabitants. Alan is armed with a mystical pendulum, which will be your key tool within the game. It possesses 5 unique mechanics to manipulate the environment and engage with supernatural elements. The game places a heavy emphasis on survival horror, and due to this, there is no direct combat. Instead, players must rely on stealth, evasion, and tension-filled exploration. The Occultist has generated considerable excitement for its eerie narrative, atmospheric depth, and the innovative mechanics, particularly the pendulum-based gameplay. If you're into psychological thrillers with immersive gameplay and a haunting soundtrack, this one's shaping up to be a standout. Dark Web Streamer is an upcoming psychological horror RPG and streaming simulation game that plunges you into the eerie depths of a fictional 1990s-style dark web. You play as an occult streamer, trying to survive and thrive in a procedurally generated world filled with hauntings, rituals, and bizarre internet culture. The game features some management simulation mechanics, such as the need to balance your skills, social stats, money, viewers, and relationships while growing your channel and staying alive. Every playthrough is unique, with randomized events, NPCs, items, rituals, and web pages. Your choices shape the narrative, and NPCs live their own lives with dynamic personalities and speech styles. Surf a surreal, procedurally generated web filled with creepy marketplaces, strange entities, and disturbing content. The game explores themes of fame, parasocial relationships, and the psychological toll of content creation. The aesthetic is deeply rooted in retro internet culture from the 90s and early 2000s. If you're into games like Pony Island, World of Horror, or Cult of the Lamb, this might be right up your alley. There you have it. That was 20 up-and-coming horror video games releasing in 2025 and beyond that you need to know about. Which game are you most excited to play? Was there a game that didn't make the list that other people need to know about? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.